Good afternoon, listeners, and welcome to episode 27 of Wear Many Hats. It's great to have you here today. It's actually an incredibly exciting episode. We are joined today by Louie-Mae Gibson, who is the estate director at Trinity Village Estate over at Borough Market. Fantastic guest for us. Louie-Mae is the chair of the Gender Equity Board at Knight Frank Promise, and we're going to talk about everything women in FM, a little bit about her career in the Royal Artillery, which is very interesting, by the way. Good afternoon, Louie-Mae. Great to have you here.
Well, thank you for asking me along.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. How you doing?
Yeah, good. It's a Thursday. It's sunny in London, so
I know.
We're winning already.
Yeah, see, I call that horrible fat man weather for me personally, Louie-Mae, because you sweat wherever you go.
I'm not talking about the chub rub shorts. I think it's too soon in the interview to be discussing chub rub.
Well, I was talking about mine. Fair enough. All right, Louie. Well, listen, thank you for joining us. Great to have you. Let's start with a nice, easy question. Tell us a little bit about your start in facilities management. How has your career got to that point?
So I served in the Royal Artillery for 10 years, left not knowing what I wanted to do, decided to get some HR qualifications behind me.
Yep.
Worked for a climate change company, carbon offsets, ended up being the head of HR there. So purely in HR, nothing to do with property or FM.
Right.
And then I left that to another job, head of HR and operations, which happened to be in a property management FM company. So purely by fluke, I ended up in property. There was no great plan to be in FM. And that was in 2010.
So that was kind of by accident then?
Yeah, I went for an HR and ops job.
Right, okay.
And then I think the majority of people in FM and PM don't necessarily set out, or not of my generation, for want to be a bit ageist about it, set out, I'm gonna do this. But
I think you're the first person that we've had that has come via that pathway, actually, quite interestingly.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because if you split the role of HR and operations, HR is HR, whatever business you go into. But I think on the operational side, if you're going to PM and FM, there's a lot of technical thing you need to learn. You need to upskill super quickly. Yeah. You can't ops something if you don't know the content of what you're opsing.
Completely agree. Yeah.
So, started my property FM career in 2010.
Right.
And it's just evolved over the last 13 years with different elements, bit director of ops or site-based roles, a bit mix and match over the last 13 years. Yeah. And here I am now at Trinity Village working for Knight Frank Promise for the last 4 years.
As an estate director, I mean, that's quite an ascent in a 13-year period. That's really impressive. How do you feel you did that? How do you feel that happened? Was it just your drive and your determination, or was it because you just found yourself in these environments and you were really good at it?
I think like I said, when I first joined the PM world, head of HR and ops, I just had this personal pride thing. Like, how can I be opsing the property management department, or if I don't even know what a lease is, or I don't even know the legislative requirements for health and safety, like, don't be ridiculous. Yeah. So it's a massive dogleg learning. So I got a bit obsessed in my early years of doing every course known to man, through in a master's, did all the IOSH, did the HR, RIPM, graduate, all these qualifications, just so I'm technically aware. But then you go into actually practicing your knowledge and awareness. Yeah. And then from there, it's just keep learning. I don't think anybody ever thinks that they're good at it and have you got to where you've got to. I just look at it as I'm here where I am now, but it's probably only thankful to those that backed me. Yeah. This random horse with polka dot jersey that nobody else would bet on in the Grand National, and someone took a punt on me, and 13 years later, really genuinely grateful to do what I do now.
Yeah, so a little bit of imposter syndrome for a period of time, and now you're there. You're at the races.
Well, I said that to one of my friends the other day about imposter syndrome. She's a fierce feminist, and she goes, "That's something the men have made up to make you feel inadequate." So I was like, "Won't be saying that again." But no, I did sort of feel, when people ask you to do these things, or you go for a new job, which is got a good paycheck, it's got a lot of responsibility. It's like, can I? And actually, the statistics are that females always underpunch.
Yes.
Because they always want to be able to see that job spec and do 99%, whereas men, they can do 60 and they're like, sod it, we'll punch a bit higher and see where the chips lay.
Yeah, true.
So there's been a lot of that, some jobs. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is quite, I remember when I got my first business cards, I was so excited. I'm like, I've made it. So there was a bit of that, but now I think I'm a bit more comfortable in my own skin. I've been around quite a while in the industry. Yeah. And it is believing in yourself, but believing in your team, actually, without being like American about it. Yeah. Like, none of us can do anything that we do without our amazing teams. Yeah. And I've been well blessed with my teams over the years.
Fantastic.
They've all been banging.
Oh, brilliant. Well, look, I mean, as we already said at the start of the show, we are going to focus quite a bit on the whole women in FM piece with yourself, Louie-Mae, because I know that you're a great ambassador for that area. And we did talk about how you joined the Royal Artillery when I think it was just after they'd started letting women into that section of the army, I believe. That's very brave. Tell us a little bit about that and, some of your experiences within the army. The ones you can talk about, obviously.
Is this going out after the watershed?
Yeah. Just talk about anything up to 7 p.m. and then after that,
let me recalibrate my brain. Big decision, but there was nothing grandiose about how I came to it. I was studying at the time to be an optometrist randomly. Yeah. And I went out with my mum for a spot of lunch. And this is literally how ridiculous the decision was. Right. We used to watch Soldier, which is a massive TV.
I used to love that, actually. I'm not going to lie, I loved it. I still like Robson and Jerome now. So.
Oh, mate. Paddy Garvey.
Yeah. I watch anything they're in. Game of Thrones, loved it. He was brilliant, wasn't he?
Brilliant.
Absolutely amazing.
Want to buy that single they released? Bought it.
Yeah, bought it. Thank God for Archie.
Yeah, right? So we went out for... I don't know, lunch or coffee, can't remember. And, I wasn't a massive mum and daughter shopping type. That's just not how we worked. Mum worked incredibly hard and didn't have the time. But this one, and she goes, well, you like men in uniform. I mean, I'm completely sort of devaluing why women join the army. But she said, and actually it's not a bad gig. And I was like, well, yeah, why don't we do it? This is literally the 3 sentences that changed my entire life. Right. So anyway, Mum finished her coffee like she was doing Jaeger bombs. Yeah. And she was, come on then, in the car. Yeah. And then I followed her into the car. And then the next minute, we're at Surbiton Careers, not shop,
Careers office.
Careers office.
Yeah, that's what they called it when I joined. Anyway,
yeah. And then she goes, my daughter wants to join the army. Yeah. And then this guy said, what do you want to join? And I was like, I haven't really given it a lot of thought. So we did the general intelligence test of intelligence. And they gave me a massive printout of jobs I could go for. Yeah. And then there were some asterisk ones, and one of them was the Royal Artillery. And I said, well, what's the asterisk for? And they said, well, they're only letting females in from 2 months from now. Right. And I said, well, I'll have a bit of that then.
Yeah. So just to give some info, that's because it was front line, wasn't it? So
it was entirely male, yeah. So the regiments, Royal Artillery was entirely male apart from support staff, like clerks or cooks or medics, that sort of thing. And the recruiter said, are you sure? And I was like, why wouldn't I be? And he goes, you will see. And then I just joined it. Signed up for the army, went to basic training. Yeah. Masses of females in the intake were Royal Logistics Corps because girls were obviously massively in that. And for my entire training, they're saying, join the RLC, join the RLC. I was like, nope. Yeah. I mean, I was quite stubborn for an 18-year-old.
Yeah,
I was like, nope, I'll join the artillery. And then voila, I joined a massively male-dominated cat badge. Yeah. And then just decided to set fires at every junction throughout, to be honest. Right. And then I did that for 10 years.
Wow. So what rank did you get to?
Bombardier.
Bombardier.
Because I was always in trouble.
Right. Okay.
I was never going to be the career soldier, if I'm honest.
To be fair, we had that conversation.
Yeah.
I was the same when I was in the Navy. So
This is it.
I didn't last anywhere near as long as you, though, Louie-Mae, to be fair.
But my tapes were, my rank slides were on Velcro. So as soon as I got promoted, I got demoted, then I got promoted. And it was just, everyone was used to it. Oh,
Yeah.
You're up for promotion again? Yeah. 6 months later, demoted again? Yeah. So it was just how I used to roll, I guess.
Oh, no, fair enough. So really interesting then. How did you, I like to ask this question because I do believe that we probably get, a lot of veterans at some point that may well listen to the podcasts. So how did you deal with the transition from military life into civilian life? And is there any tips that you could give specifically to women who are leaving the armed forces about moving into the private sector, whether that's FM or other industries?
I mean, that's a two-pronged question.
Yeah, I know. I always
think
do
for the transition to civilian life from when I left the army at that time for me personally was brutal.
Really?
I look back and there were extremely dark days.
Wow.
I left a unit based in Germany where you're surrounded night and day by friends or even people you don't like. There's someone you can always have a beer with or go and play a bit of football with, to suddenly in a house share in Canada Water with loads of strangers.
Wow.
Doing a job quite well, but fell apart a bit.
Not surprised.
Because there wasn't the support that there is now for veterans.
Yeah.
There needs to be more still. But
yes.
So, retrospectively, it was not easy at all.
Yeah.
And I actually wouldn't wish that on any of my enemies. It was dark.
Yeah.
But now it's a lot better. And I think my advice is, male or female, to differentiate between veterans transitioning and the female entity. I think if people are leaving the military, look for businesses that are and do hold the Armed Forces Covenant.
Yes.
Because within that, they will have commitments to how they recruit.
Yeah.
Guaranteed job interviews, for instance.
Okay.
And I think my advice to veterans leaving is don't do your tick box resettlement courses because actually they're not that great in Civvy Street. You suddenly get a Prince project management and, how to write your CV course. That's actually not going to suit you that well.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of courses through resettlement in the FM world you can do. You can do your NEBOSH and your IOSHs and random HR, because again, HR fits every box.
Yeah.
So at your year's worth of your last year of service, hit up the generic items.
Yeah.
And I think if you then approach an Armed Forces Covenant business and say that I've done all the quals.
Yeah.
And I promise you I'll work hard, just
give me a chance.
Give you a chance.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people with the Armed Forces Covenant will be like, right, okay.
Fair enough.
You've got a probation period.
Yeah.
And then it's up to the veteran to smash it.
Yeah.
And a lot do.
Well, invariably, I would say more do than don't.
More do than some of the civvies, to be fair.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think people are getting more attuned to the challenges that vets face, be it mental health, housing, all these things that you wouldn't necessarily see of a total civilian recruit that comes through. Just be really honest, speak to the recruitment teams in businesses. If you look, there's a book out and I will give you the link and it's called The Great 100 Veteran Employers.
Right.
And that was published at the Ex-Services Awards this year.
Right.
And that lists the top 100, so it's not just about Night Frank Promise, it's about the whole, the UK and businesses. Look through that publication because then you can see guaranteed interviews. They will be honest that you can go for these jobs up to this salary. Yeah. And it's really quite transparent.
Yeah.
So I think that gives vets the confidence in approaching because you could be the most bolshy, confident, exuberant person in the military, but then you're studying a suit that doesn't quite fit. Yeah. You're a bit nervous. You don't know how you're going to pay your rent, and then you're in an interview, and that is a huge amount of things to go check.
Yeah, of course.
Versus your civilian counterpart.
Yeah.
So if anybody ever wants to DM me, on the top 100 employers, then please do, all day long.
Well, if you share the link with us, Louie-Mae, we'll post it in the comments when we post the podcast on LinkedIn, so that people can access it. Because I think you're right. I think a lot of people in Civvy Street, as we used to call it back in the day, I don't think they understand how much the forces actually look after people who operate within them. Like they are, to a certain extent, babysat, I suppose. Not babysat in terms of...
But you are. Your medical, your housing,
everything
is...
It's all provided.
You were never going to go hungry, and you're always going to have a roof over your head. So it's a basic human need, isn't it? Shelter, food. So when you leave that protected environment, and this spans all rank structures within the military. Yeah. I've had majors that have left the army and been like, I haven't got a house anymore.
Yeah.
How do I get an interview? Yeah. They told us to arrogant interviews, down to a grunt, if you like, at a private. That's just like, I've left the block. I'm single, so I don't have any priority on housing, social housing. So there's all these things that are so compounded when you leave the military. So, there's a lot. And I think when you see a vet in front of you, for them to even get there, ignore your recruitment process. Yeah. But for them to even be in front of you, they've probably put up with or dealt with so much that actually just give them a job anyway. Because
it's really impressive that they're there.
Impressive that they've turned up. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. What a fantastic way to put it. Well, listen, to our listeners out there, if you are looking at recruiting some vets or anybody who's leaving the military, and you want some advice, then feel free to DM Louie-Mae. I'm sure that she will help as she can. Okay, so that's fantastic. Thank you for telling us all about your time in the military. So moving on to you now as an individual. Obviously, you're the chair of the Gender Equity Board for Knight Frank Promise. I know that that's an area that you're really passionate about. So tell us a little bit about what that entails and how that's helpful.
So previously at Knight Frank Promise, we had a Women in Business board. Right. And they achieved great things like an IW International Women's Day, 8th of March, people, bookmark it, event. And, we were sort of moving along, but not. So this year we sort of reignited the whole debate. And so gender equity, obviously, to be more inclusive.
Yes.
It's not just women in business, it is gender.
Yes.
And we've got a core of women that are just really frank, honest, brutal at times, but we've got that ability to have that trust and conversation to say this is not, or I personally found this. Yeah. So for instance, we're talking about miscarriage leave. Yes. So part of the Gender Ec board, and we discuss, and actually, once you discuss it with a few of the girls, you realise it affects so many more than you would think. Yep. Adoption leave, that's normally down the list. Yes. Just because you didn't give a physical birth to a child, if you adopted one, that's still a new child to you, right?
They're still hard work.
Right, they're still right.
I don't care where it came from.
Mate, I've got 2 Frenchies, so I'm tapping out of that.
But exactly, yeah.
I think, we're talking about adoption leave. It's actually, if you've adopted, you need that 6 months as well as a new mother does. It's the same. It might be a bit different on the age scale of nappies, but there's still a huge seismic change in your life.
Yes.
IVF, that's something actually I talk about, as you've probably seen.
Yeah, without doubt.
On LinkedIn, about it's not a dirty conversation.
Well, tell us a little bit about that then, about what you're doing with regards to IVF on LinkedIn.
So I did do a controversial post on LinkedIn. Right. Which the opening sentence was, would you ask someone if they wax their vagina? So don't have a heart attack just yet. Okay. But the premise of that conversation was to, first of all, stop saying to people or questioning, males and females, what their child status is. Yeah. If I can share that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Because it's something that I feel fierce about on this. Yeah. How do you wax your vagina? Inappropriate question to ask someone if you don't really know or work with them. Then why do people keep asking women about their childless status? If you're close enough to someone to know that, you'll already know the answer. If you're not close enough, then you shouldn't be asking. You don't know if a child is all someone has ever wanted, maybe a horrendous physical, a mental ordeal going through IVF or miscarriage. The women whose husbands won't post on Facebook, my warrior wife smashed it and we're delighted to announce the birth. That will never go and see their own child at a nativity play, won't ever understand the stress about 11 plus exams, who won't cheer their daughter on at the Olympics or attend their child's graduation day, who feels that she's let her partner down, that she isn't woman enough. So, before you think of asking, did you not want kids then? Think, would you ask about her fanny wax?
Wow, that's really powerful.
So that's quite deep, but I've got goosebumps.
I do.
Reading
really...
that post out. And with a photo of my two gorgeous boys, my Frenchies, Boris and Bertie.
Hello, Boris. Hello, Bertie.
But it was a case of opening the conversation because as you're going through it, there's a lot of medical stuff, hormones, financial, marital or partner, gay relationships also go through that quite a lot.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's not okay to sit across the boardroom from someone and say, so why didn't you want kids? So that's the whole point. Would you sit across the boardroom to me and say, do you wax your vagina? People are like, horrified by the post. I loved it. Yeah. It's got the most impressions ever I've ever had on LinkedIn. But the interesting, point of that is it was the amount of men that reached out to me about IVF and their wives and asking me, how can I support them? Yeah. There's a lot of the gay community discussing it, that there was no failure of pregnancy, but it's actually a transactional structure of items they have to do.
Yeah.
So that I think that's really interesting. But I think, the Gender Ec Board, we were saying about the IVF element of it. And so we got to talk about it.
I completely agree.
And men need to talk about it. So I'm not man bashing when I talk about being a feminist. When we talk about the IVF journey in FM, and people's jobs, you've got to sometimes be on site. You've got to do the client reporting. You got. Yeah. There's times someone just needs to tap out and say, me and my partner, we've just had enough. Or do you know what? It's failed. This cycle has failed. And having someone that can at least empathise what that means. And I think there's a male partner, like Frank, I've spoken quite a lot about it. And he said it was out for drinks with the lads the other week. Yeah. And there were 7 of them. And 5 are going through IVF.
Right.
So the Gender Ec Board, again, that's why I said it, Gender Ec, not just women in business. Yeah. Is equitable for all the intrinsic elements that do include things like IVF, because they're, if you were a male partner to a female, if your wife is going through hell, the last thing you want to do is check fire alarms and, check this,
agreed.
all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So I think that's obviously a personal passion of mine. Yeah. But other things we're just talking about promotions, making sure that we are on point with promotions across the board. When we look at gender pay gap, Knight Frank Promise have done amazing the last year. They've reduced it from over 10% down to 3-something%. Forgive me for not knowing.
No, but that's very impressive still.
But that's impressive over a 12-month period. Yeah. And if you look at the, what can we do to attract more women? So would it be job shares? Is it going to be flexi working? Yeah. Is it going to be, a more staggered return to work? Because not every baby suddenly at 6 months behaves themselves as well and sleeps through the night.
Agreed.
So what's the point in having someone turn absolutely shattered? Yeah. So let's work how we can, and I hate this word holistically, but how we can look at it and fix it. Yeah. But that sort of, because it's equity now and gender equity, that all falls under our umbrella. And the beauty with the Gender Ec is that we can go to the executive board at Knight Frank Promise and cut out all the red tape and all the reports and just go, this is the agenda, this is what we'd like. Yeah. Are you buying it? Yeah. And if they say no, we'll do it the next month and the next month.
Yeah. And just keep doing it until they say yes.
So it's just a key thing that we represent everyone in the business, and we can just hop straight to the exec and say, is there any chance of this, or have you thought about that?
Yeah. So you're effectively trying to create an environment where, everybody feels like no matter what's going on within their personal lives, whether it's IVF, mental health issues, anything along those lines, they feel like that they're in a supportive environment and an organisation that can support them through whatever journey they're going on. Would that be an accurate assessment?
100%.
Yeah, okay.
Your people, and I'm not Richard Branson, but, your people are your greatest asset.
Completely agree.
And, a happy worker is a good worker. So even if you don't care about the, the empathies around it as a business. If you've got someone that feels engaged, looked after, and heard, they're going to turn up. They're going to work hard for you. So you just care about your bottom line. Your retention goes up. So the cost of that, sickness levels go down. So even if you don't give a fig about all of this fluff, as some people call it, and if they call it to my face, I'll strangle them. But,
by the way, do not call it fluff to her face. Anybody.
I'll have ya. So
She's trained. She's trained.
So and I think when people can reach out, like I've got an amazing boss, JT, in Promise, and I have my own mental health issues and I'm just basically a wreck. No, I'm joking.
Right.
But no, I can. There's times when I'm not that great in life, and I can just text. We've got our own, not for this conversation, but we've got our own little way of dealing with it, and it's amazing.
It's brave to say that in this format, so thank you for sharing that.
But people need to be open and people not judge. And just be like, instead of going, just go, actually, what can I do to help? And people say, oh, they're pulling the mental health card, or they're pulling this card, or they're pulling that card. Well, do you know what? If 100 people pulling the card, but 50 aren't pulling the card, then we need to help the 50, right? And people always can take liberties. So just be kind and stop being...
Be kind to each other.
Stop being turds.
Stop being turds.
Can we hashtag that?
Yeah, we'll put it on the post. Stop being... Hashtag stop being...
Can we see if we can get it trending?
I'm going to write that down. Hashtag...
Stop being turds.
Stop being turds. Watch out for that one, listeners. Okay, brilliant. Okay, well, listen, I mean, I think that's fantastic. I think, the work that you're doing in that space in terms of gender equity is, commendable. And it's great to see businesses taking it, taking it seriously.
Seriously, yeah.
Because, I mean, we're kind of in the service partner side, rather than client side. So, we're pretty good at making sure that we do those things right. Not that, I mean, we're all learning it, I think, but we're pretty good at making sure that we're in that space and doing the right thing for the right reasons. I think is really important. But you
can't win a race unless you turn up to start the race, right?
That's true.
Just turn up. That's what I say to my people.
Yeah.
Turn up.
Yeah. I have a particular set of skills. Okay, brilliant. Well, listen, let's move on to something that I know that is probably quite high on your agenda in your role at the minute, and that's, sort of environmental, social and governance issues. So tell us a little bit about that and what your expectations are, or maybe what you do in those areas.
I think it's tripartite with the client's ESG, Knight Frank Promise, and then our own estate ESG.
Yeah.
I'm an eco warrior. Like I mentioned earlier, when I first left the army, I joined a climate change business.
Yeah.
Socially, we all need to be a bit more attuned and do more.
Agreed.
And governance just needs to be done. I mean, that's not the fun part of ESG, but you need to suck it up and crack on.
Yeah.
But I think we need to be realistic, and businesses or individuals or teams need to stop setting themselves unrealistic goals, because we are human, and by nature, if we don't reach the goals, we beat ourselves up and we get disengaged.
Yep.
So I think break it down. What does it mean to you? So I know Knight Frank and Knight Frank Promise have got their ESG gig going on.
Yeah.
Like big stuff with research teams and all that beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
But actually, affect change on a smaller, like on an individual macro level.
Yeah.
Micro even. So I look at it for my team. What can we do to make the estate more efficient? What can we do that's more green? The social part. We've got a beautiful estate, but next to us is one of the most impoverished social housing estates.
Right.
So include them in our community events that are all free of charge.
Yeah.
Easter egg hunts. I had a mum come up to me crying. Her child is 6 and she's never been able to afford an Easter egg.
Oh.
So
that's all.
She came up to me and the kid had a massive Tesco bag of like 4 eggs. One had a cup with it. Bags of sweets. And I mean, the kid had her face painted, balloons. I mean, I don't think the kid slept that night, to be fair.
Bouncing off the walls, yeah.
But, for us as a team at Trinity to have a parent come up to us in tears the first time, and we are taking this a bit for granted that we've always had Easter eggs.
No, of course we are.
So that's a real, grassroots level of the social element. And it's just like, what can we fix? What can we change? Like, I'm no Greta Thunberg, for God's sake.
Yeah.
But, if we don't have to, if we get better laptops, if we change the boilers to the more energy, if we put a roof replacement up, make sure it's got this, and there's all this, banging a few ERV charging points. Our name drop, Jamie Wilsden from Future Group.
Right.
He's the MD there. Absolute legend. Got us grants. Took all the pay. I was like, I'm so busy.
Yeah.
He just fixed it all and done it, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
So we've got ERVs now at Trinity.
Right.
So all these things are really quick wins.
Yeah.
But if everybody that's in FM or PM
does the same,
had an event that was open to everybody in the postcode, not just the posh people with the nice houses.
Yeah.
If everybody, when they changed a boiler for £200 more, got a 70% more efficient boiler. Yeah. Just do it, put in a few charging points. Again, nothing's going to change the world. China is still going to be chugging out everything to the environment, but we're not China, we're Great Britain. Yeah. So let's do our little piece, I think.
Let's be great, as they say.
Donald Trump, let's be great again. But maybe not, he's getting impeached, so maybe we just delete him.
Yeah, let's delete him. Banned. Okay, lovely. So moving back to, sort of the women in FM, but I'm going to focus purely on women here, rather than that overarching element. What advice would you give to young women, young females that are looking to move into facilities management as a career?
I think they need to, and I say they collectively, because I ask young women what they feel the barriers are or what they perceive the barriers to be.
Yeah.
Oh, but I don't want to work on a construction site. Yeah. Oh, but I don't want to be doing it. And I was like, dear God, do you think I go to a construction site every day? I wear flip-flops to work. But, I think just, the FM world has evolved so much, especially in the last 7 to 8 years, I'd say. It's taken on a whole different being and all-encompassing role. And so there's a definite career there.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just turning, I say just turning up, but, I've got to flick the lights once a week. Oh, I've got to check that our fire extinguishers aren't out of date. I'm like, that is not an FM role anymore.
No.
And again, have belief in yourself. If you're looking at a career, eradicate the tick box. I don't care if you've got a first in fine art. And actually, if it's irrelevant to the role.
Yeah.
And again, women, they always feel that they need to achieve the 99%. Well, just go for it. Yeah. Sort of everyone, the best work ethic and willingness to learn can smash it.
Yeah.
Get in your job, dare I say, wing it a little bit.
Yeah.
But if then you're going home like I did when I joined and I was like studying at night at weekends, I was like, I need to up my game because I don't know anything about leasehold, freehold, anything.
Yeah.
But if you have that commitment, bird, you can be, and I call us bird because we're eagles.
Yeah.
Or we're birds that pick up worms, i.e. the men. But, you can literally carve out a career. Yeah. It's not digger boots. It's not walking around with a clipboard. FM is not that anymore. Yeah. And I spoke to my goddaughter, funny enough, the other weekend. She about career options. She's 15. I spoke to her about FM. She goes, yeah, but I don't fancy working in building. And it was quite and she's known me for years, right? Yeah. She knows what I do for a living. And I was like, Gracie, that is not. And then I was talking her through it. And she was like, right, where do I go?
Yeah.
What graduate schemes? What do I need to do? So we ended up going for a half an hour chat with a glass of wine to 3 hours later deciding what she's going to do.
Right.
Open your eyes, girls. Stop putting these restrictions on yourself.
Yeah.
These are self-imposed. You've got enough barriers and ceilings out there to fight when you get to them.
Yeah.
Look at it. It can be well paid. So look, there's FM roles can lead to director of estates, head of resi, all these things. Yeah. There's jobs at the moment are paying 80 to 120 grand.
Wow.
So, and you can get that within 8 years if you smash it.
Yeah.
So at 30 years, like here and now, at 30 years old, if someone said to me, you could earn 120 grand.
Yeah.
Sign me up, buttercup.
Well, I'd be on it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but you need to break it down and you need to, but I think education is a flippant way of saying it. awareness, maybe, like saying to women, it is not a bloke's. And anyway, we're 2023. What even is a bloke's job?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Get over it. But look at where you can be. Look, actually, when you are in FM and you work hard and you get promoted, you're then managing teams.
Yeah.
You are effecting change.
Yeah.
You are the one that can make the decisions that return to work people can come back and feel valued.
Yeah.
So if you want to be part of the solution, get on that career path. It's not even rocket science to start off.
No.
Yeah. A lot of FM, I think, is having half a brain, common sense, and just being polite now and again. I carry that now and again.
Only when you really, really have to be.
Yeah, I struggle with that. But yeah, just saying to women, it's get it through your heads. It is not a man's job. Absolutely not. Turn up, give it a go. Yeah. And if you don't like it, you've wasted, say if you give it a go for 18 months, you still got 18 months in your CV. You might go into law afterwards, but it's 18 months. We've done something completely left of field. Yeah. And you've got experience. Yeah. And if nothing else, if you buy a flat in a block, you will know that those buggers downstairs need to be testing the lights. If you achieve nothing else.
Exactly. You can save yourself money in other ways later in life.
Right. So it's a win-win, mate. It's a win-win.
Yeah. Okay. So sort of staying on that subject, do you think there's any barriers into the industry at the minute for women? Or do you think that the industry, and I'm talking about the industry as a whole, has done a good job of taking those barriers away? Controversial question, but...
There's still barriers, without doubt.
Okay.
But I do think in the last 3 to 5 years, I have seen a massive seismic change, from the barriers that it's not a sob story. Yeah. When applying for jobs a few years ago, and I was like, I know I could smash it. Yeah. But I wasn't even, and another girl that I know, we weren't even getting into the interviews. Right. So I dropped the May of Louie-Mae off my CV. Right. So my name was just Louie Gibson. And I resent it. And I got asked for an interview for every post I applied for.
Oh, really?
So I was just like, So then we got to really address that because Louie Gibson, who they thought was a bloke, was getting all the interviews. Louie-Mae, because I changed the pronouns on my CV. Yeah. So I did the whole thing. He everywhere. Yeah. And I was like, wow. And I think that's in 2018. So we're not talking about decades ago.
How interesting. Yeah. I find that fascinating. And I actually do. I really do. I find that fascinating.
I think for me it's a bit depressing as a fierce feminist, regardless of sector, that we're still putting up with this poop at that time in 2018. Yeah. That is ridiculous. Everyone, I'd send the CV within half an hour, my phone was going, I was getting asked for interviews, can we put this, and this? And I literally applied for every single job that I'd applied for as Louie-Mae, as Louie.
Wow.
So I think there's unconscious bias.
Yeah. Did you, out of interest, did you challenge?
Oh, I called every single one out.
Yeah, you did. And what was the response out of interest?
Some of them just phoned me up going, please don't tell anyone, which was quite a strange response. Yeah. Some people blamed an IT glitch of that then Louie worked, but your IT was off with Louie-Mae. Other people just phoned up and said, I'm an absolute arse. I've clearly got to learn something. Can we have a chat? And there was 3 recruiters who had that approach to me.
Oh, fair play to them.
And I still work with them today because they're like, the language was a bit stronger than that from them. But they were appalled with themselves. And actually the fact that they self-recognised that. Yeah. And I was just like, whoa, I feel like a beep. Yeah. Went out for a few beers. I was just like, I let rip. Yeah. This is not acceptable, and all the rest of it. And they said, right, tell me though, how shall I fix this? And yeah, that's in 2018. Like I said, 3 of the ones that reached out to apologise and, hands up, they said, basically. 5 years later, I'm still working with them. And I still work a lot in the EDI space and women in FM and business. Right. And the others I won't touch.
Do you think if you did the same thing now, the same thing would happen?
I might have to be a bit more creative with the name.
It'd be an interesting exercise.
Bob. I might go for Bob.
Yeah. It would be though, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be an interesting exercise to see if that unconscious bias is still out there or whether or not the industry. Not that I want to challenge everybody in the industry here because I'll probably get myself in trouble, but it would be an interesting thing to do.
He's saying I'm not doing it.
I wondered where Bob came from.
Yeah. Keeping stum on that. Watch this space. You'll probably see an inappropriate LinkedIn post with stats.
All right. Well, I will watch out for that.
If you see the Bob post along with wax your vagina, then you know that things have really gone downhill.
Or a post that says Bob's waxed his vagina.
But that's it. We're all in. We're all in.
We're in all kinds of
yeah, people just learn. Like I know I've personally got unconscious bias against. We just have, as humans, we have. I think there's over 200 unconscious biases we can have.
Right.
So, when I speak to people or they ask me for recruitment advice, so Cobalt recently done an amazing piece on DEI and inclusion and strategies for recruitment.
Big shout out to Chris Sycamore who came on the podcast not that long ago.
So Chris, my little legend, Chris Sycamore, he's a buttercup. Love Chris, and he's actually one of the ones that's been decent. Is he? Start 100%.
Oh, was it? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, he's completely in the Love Club. He's amazing.
Oh, brilliant.
And he champions women in FM all the time. So
to be fair, he's very knowledgeable about the area when he came on the show.
Well, he knows his gig anyway, which is always good. He doesn't blag stuff.
Yeah.
He's realistic. But yeah, he's all for supporting women in FM. I did an article in FMJ and he was like, let's share this, let's get this going.
Yeah.
He asked me questions, I asked him questions, as you do.
Yeah.
But he's open and he's honest. And do you know what? I think that's all we can ask for of any of us.
Yeah.
I say, if you think you've got these unconscious biases, then first of all, you're halfway there because you're acknowledging that, you're not Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
And I think then you just say to people, say to your recruiter or your HR department, actually wipe out the pronouns, wipe out the names, because that could be indicative as to heritage. If the education is not relevant for the role, so unless you're going for surveillance, like delete it, because that's ageist, it can be, or set if it's a girls' school, delete it, get rid of it, redact it. So all you should be left with is candidate 101.
Yeah. Job,
Vroomf, bullet points. Next job, vroomf. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know that you went to Tiffany Girls' School. So just, but even if you think you haven't got that, do it. Speak to your HR department or your recruiters when you're recruiting or promoting. And as much as you can, delete everything. And obviously, if when you're interviewing and you hear their first name or their names and you're like, oh my God, I know you're an absolute train wreck because of what you've actually done, then you don't have to invite them back for a second, do you?
Well, true.
But at least they're in front of you rather than someone going, well, I had a bad time with someone from Lithuania, so any name that looks Eastern European, I'm going to delete. Now, their frontal brain is not thinking that, but their unconscious bias is going, do you remember he was sick every day? He was sick. So then you see that name and your brain can't help but think, oh, I remember someone from Canoe. Oh, your brain behaves like that. So, I think just be really open and reach out to people. Like if you were to say to me, like, LM, I'm looking at these CVs. I'm like, right, send them to me. I will, you can say to people, I don't know even if I have got unconscious bias. Yeah. But I'm worried I might have. So do you know what? Can you just redact the granny out of it?
That's a really, I think that's a great way to look at it. I really do. I think, I think maybe more recruiters should just do that as part of the course.
My personal, and this is a personal business opinion, is that I do not think that in 2023 we should be having people's pronouns or their names or their irrelevant education. And then that will cut down on racism, ageism, sexism. It's a quick fix, right? So
I can't argue with you. I think it's an incredibly valid point. I really do. I think it makes sense.
Like there's, I've had this debate with people before. I was like, give me your counter argument for not doing it. So look at it from the other way. Give me your. Well, what if there's someone that we sacked, or what if we know that they're, like I said, a train wreck? Then we speak to HR, we shortlist the CVs, then we get the names. Yeah. And then we see Bob Smith. Yeah. We go, oh, Bob Smith, he was the one that set fire to the, to
we're not having him back. Yeah.
He was smoking in the, in the pump room and set fire to the block. You can then delete him because that's justable and it's a cause to
justifiable,
delete. But so have a word for yourselves. Yeah. And there's no shame in saying, maybe I have. Like I say, potato, patata.
Yeah.
We all like to think that we're lovely humans, but we're not.
No.
So speak to someone that's removed from your recruitment cycle or your promotion cycle, get them to do it all. And then at least honestly, by the time someone gets to you, you've been as fair and unbiased as you possibly can be.
Yeah, fantastic approach. I really like that.
I'll look after some CVs for you. I'll send them over.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we're going to be recruiting at some point in the future. So when we are, we'll get you to screen them.
Yeah, I've got nothing else going on. It's fine.
Well, you offered.
Well, no, fair, unfair when I did.
You
my
offered.
Big mouth.
Don't offer if you don't want to do it.
Sign me up, Buttercup.
All right,
not a problem.
Lovely. All right, then. So, listen, we've talked about your career. We've talked about some of the things that you're passionate about. So, just tell us a little bit about you. What do you like doing? Who is Louie-Mae outside of work? We know about work. What do you like doing outside of work?
Married to the most patient, awesome man on the planet.
That's what I say about my wife.
He will be listening to this. No.
She better get some flowers and a box of chocolates for saying nice things.
Fortunately married to a great dude. We've got 2 Frenchies, Boris and Bertie, as I mentioned.
Boris, I've seen a picture of Boris and Bertie, by the way, people, so you should check them out. They are very cute. I like them.
They are our children.
Yes.
And I think the doggy daycare is more stressful than my sister's childcare. But there we go.
Yeah.
A gooner. So, been a gooner since I was like 4 years old, 5 years old.
Gooner, Arsenal, yeah?
Yeah, so I used to have a season ticket, but I gave it off because they're rinsing their fans.
They are actually.
1,800 quid to watch them lose against Burnley. I don't cocoa. So now I just pick the games. So yeah, Gooner got a random fascination with Mongolian history.
Really?
Which I'd like to do a PhD in one day about Genghis Khan being a feminist.
Genghis Khan being a feminist. Do you know that
Trust me.
Yeah. Did you know that I read somewhere that Genghis Khan, his DNA is represented in a hugely high population of human beings alive on the planet today?
Well, yeah.
Because of the amount of children he had. I think it's something ridiculous, like 15 or 16% or something like that. It's mental.
I mean, Mongolian history fascinates me.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was a shagger, wasn't he?
I mean, to be fair, he as well as the Lansdowne Aldershot on a Friday night. But yeah, so I'd love to do a PhD in Mongolia, specifically Genghis Khan being a feminist.
Give us a 2-minute brief why he's a feminist then. I need to know this. I need to know. Go on.
The empowerment he gave women to make battle decisions and loyalty decisions.
Did he really?
Blood, salt and years. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying on that.
Ah.
If I get funding for a PhD, I shall let you know.
Yeah, let us know.
But love Mongolian history.
Yeah.
Got some great nieces, nephews, godchildren. I love our holidays. Then I think, just Louie-Mae is just at home with the boys.
Yeah.
That's the husband and the dogs
together. Having a beer.
Watching a bit of football, having a beer. And then if someone says something like sexist online or whatever, then I just pause everything and go into feral mode. Yeah, it'll be 2:00 in the morning and I'll see something on Bored Panda or on Facebook and I'm like, stand by, I cannot sleep. Typing away to like 5 in the morning, then when I'm so bloody knackered. But,
brilliant.
Yeah, I think just really proud of what women are doing in this space and the LGBT community. Like I said, married to my best mate. So apart from Trinity, which is, a huge part of my life, obviously.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That's just me. And if you ever want to talk about Mongolian history.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a chat about that in the pub afterwards, I think.
Let's.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a history buff, me, anyway. I like anything history, so we'll have a bit of a convo about that.
We're gonna have a challenge, aren't we? I can see us like pipping each other to the post in a master's or PhD.
I'm nowhere near that good, Louie-Mae. I have a good overall knowledge.
Overarching knowledge of history.
Yeah, not a detailed. I just hear snippets that I like. Genghis being a shagger sounds good to me.
Jesus, I might put that on my Cambridge application for my PhD.
Yeah, no, don't put that.
I think the funny, my husband always says though, he goes, I don't know how many. I love the History Channel.
Yeah, same.
And so I don't know how many documentaries you can watch about Hitler. Nothing's changed. And like you still, like when my dad comes out, me, dad and daughter time, we literally, History Channel, we'll have a curry.
Yeah.
I mean, just watching something else on the History Channel. And Jay's like, World War II has not changed.
Yeah,
I was like, but this report.
Yeah, and you always find out new things. There's so much stuff going on during World War II, you can just never run out of content. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, this is it. So,
no chance.
History, family is my absolute world. And obviously my Frenchies.
Cool.
And women.
And women.
in business.
In business, women in business. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure learning about yourself, Louie-Mae, your career, all the work that you're doing, for gender equity, women in facilities management, and so on and so forth. So I'd like to thank you very much for joining us on episode 27 of Wear Many Hats. Very, very interesting episode. Thanks for joining us, Louie-Mae.
Honestly, thank you for having me. I think I spoke a lot, but there you go.
That was brilliant. Really enjoyed it.
God bless. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Toodles.